Strap in and get ready.
The leaders in AFL SuperCoach are incoming, helping you win your leagues and climb up the rankings.
You're now listening to the Insight AFL Show with your hosts, Big Horse and Skitty.
Hello and welcome to the Insight AFL Show. I'm your host, The Horse, and joining me this evening, he's back again. We've already done a pod today. We're going again. Deadly, welcome back, mate.
Yeah, cheeky doubleheader for today. I'm sure the episode we filmed earlier will be out in the coming days or weeks. And it was a good time. Back again to do some draft sort of stuff. I'm somewhat new to it, but yeah, pretty keen to rip and tear.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, we've got a special guest for us this evening. So this guy that we've got in the middle here, Runaway Train, as people know him as in the Central Vic area, he knows a thing or two about drafts. So we've picked him out of a selective pool. He's a draft expert. He knows exactly what we're talking about, and he's here to help us select this year's best sleepers in your SuperCoach draft. Train, welcome, mate.
Thanks, Horse. Good to see you've got a bit of class on your show tonight.
With that Essendon jumper and Essendon hat, you could make it on every week, mate. But before we start, ladies and gentlemen, hit like, subscribe, and the bell. Here at Insight Fantasy Sports, we call it being the triple banger. We love that. But also, if you're listening to us on audio, give us a 5-star review. Your 5-star review helps us get out into the SuperCoach community. Now, tonight, we do diddle around with some ads and all that sort of stuff, but I want to get stuck into SuperCoach Draft tonight, just straight away. So, Deadly, with SuperCoach Draft, what are some of the things that we look for before you start your draft?
For me personally, you always got to, have a gaze at the league settings. You always got to make sure, what the actual score is, what the setup is of your team, shit like that. I always like to, have a look. You always got to find out what position you're drafting, who you could pick at that spot, who could fall to you. And you just sort of plan around that and you structure your draft from that and go from there. For
sure. Train, being a very, very experienced SuperCoach drafter, what are some of the things you look for before you even draft?
Well, I've done a couple of drafts this season already. I think one of the key things you should take into consideration is the amount of teams in your league, and then you're having a look at how many players. So we did an earlier one with 12 teams and 13 players. So, you're looking at 156 players in the pool. But then we participated in another one on the weekend. There's 16 teams, 16 players, positions, and that's 256 players out of the pool. So you can actually run short of people very quickly if you haven't sort of roughly calculated how many you need.
Yeah, for sure. And being an experienced campaigner of the SPL, where you've done quite well many years in a row. And I know there's a few of the boys in the chat here watching how you go. You got any tips for them before they start, or are they just going to have to wait and see?
No, the SPL wanted a shout out, so I'm giving them one. Go, boys. But season one was my best. Semi-finals got rolled, and I think since then we've been on a slide downhill. Probably been the best side to never win it, I reckon.
Yeah, well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it from the man's mouth himself. The best SuperCoach owner of any team not to have won a SuperCoach premiership. So there you go. Now, for me, you're looking at, it's not just the league settings or the amount of teams that are in the league. You're also looking at how many players in each line. So there is ADP data on the SuperCoach website, and we've also come up with some of our own, but you've really got to crunch and prioritize where you want to fill your players or where you're looking to draft first. So if you can see, and you've got to be willing, before I continue on, you've got to be willing to pivot. So if you've got a plan to pick up, say, a mid or a back and a forward before you start looking at your midfield, and you see in the first 10 picks 5 ruckmen go, you might have to pivot in order to make sure that you grab a ruckman before it's too late. So that's probably one thing for me that you've got to be wary of, is to be able to think on your feet and have a plan B. Don't just go in with the single mind of I'm going to draft this way. Otherwise, from experience speaking, you'll fall in a hole and you'll end up chasing tail the whole way in the back end of the draft. So just be all over those settings and leagues and rules that we've come up with there. Now, in regards to sleepers, boys, we're going to talk defense first. So it's easy to talk about, your Sam Flanders, even though he's injured at the moment, your Sheasels, these sorts of guys, Callum Mills. These are guys that are going to go off the board pretty quickly, given that they're going to have prominent roles in midfields. They're ball users. They're going to get a shit ton of the ball. But we're looking at sleepers. So, Train, I want to go to you first, mate. Give me a sleeper in the defense that you think with ADP, so average draft position, that on average at the moment they're going a lot later and could provide earlier round value.
Yeah, look, he does slip a couple of rounds, and the drafts that I've done, he has slid down the line a little bit. But I'm very keen on Trent Rivers, which I know some people will go, well, that might be obvious, but a dual position player in defender and mid. Or last year averaging 85.9. Now, I was having a quick squeeze earlier in this afternoon with Petrarca in the team. He was averaging 80.5, and then when Petrarca got hurt halfway through last year, he bumped up to 92.9 without Petrarca. Now, we obviously know that they've lost a few in that midfield, and I reckon Petrarca is going to be a delayed start. And if that is the case, then Trent Rivers, look out. I reckon he could be your man.
Yep, 100% agree.
Where's he getting drafted at the moment in drafts?
Well, I know a lot of people are first and second, third rounds even attacking this midfield and ruck line. So he's slipping anywhere, into that fifth or sixth category. So it just depends. I guess if you know the boys in your league too, you can sometimes know if who they love, who their favourites are, and that people do target the midfields heavily, and obviously they score well, so that's obvious. But what I've seen in the last couple of drafts that I've done is mids run quite deep, but the back line and the forward line, they're a bit thin, so get them early.
Yeah, spot on. I really like that shout about Rivers too. Looks to be spending more time in the middle this year. We think that, and this is just our opinion, of course, that Petrarca is going to spend a lot more time forward this year.
Yeah.
So that's going to open up a fair bit of time for the likes of Trent Rivers and so forth to run through the middle and be able to bump up that 92 average to anywhere between 95 and 100. So when you're talking classic, he's at 460K. He does provide value there, but also in a SuperCoach draft with that DPP, if he's slipping into your 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, there's great value there as well. Deadly, who you got?
My first defender that's sort of flying under the radar a bit, sort of, one that I wouldn't pick for classic, obviously, but there's sort of reasons why he's slipping, and it's probably just based off last year, and it's Kane Farrell.
Right.
Obviously, he was playing second fiddle to Dan Houston last year. It's probably his backline to run for a while. And, he averaged 83 last year. He's getting drafted at around 133, which...
Oh, wow.
That's sort of putting him to... If you're a 12 team, that's sort of putting towards like the back 2 rounds. And that's a defender you could almost start week to week, and he'll score you a consistent, I reckon, close to 90 this year.
That's great for you. So at Port Adelaide, who do you think is going to be... Who's going to take over the Dan Houston role?
Personally, probably will be Josh Sin, but Logan Evans wouldn't be far behind. He sort of got forced into it when, Houston was out because he got with the bump, and Kane Farrell did the hammy in the last round. Logan Evans played in that role. I think he had 26 kicks and no handballs or something ridiculous. And
oh wow,
had 100 and something SuperCoach points in the final round. So there's good value for either of them too in late rounds as well, Josh Sin and Logan Evans, whoever gets it, especially for deeper leagues. Just anyone in that Port backline is just really sort of underrated at the minute.
Yep. I'm going to throw out 2 names to you, lads, and these are guys who, on average, are going at 136 and 137. So this, if we're talking 12-team leagues, these guys are going in the 12th round. And that's Harry Perryman from Collingwood and Jarman Impey from Hawthorn. So with Harry Perryman, he averaged almost 100 when his CBAs were at nearly 50%. So when you're talking about someone who's moved clubs to Collingwood and has been training in the midfield all season, for me, that screams value. If you're on average, getting him in the 12th round, that's 6th round value, 5th round value, an absolute massive sleeper if you're looking at drafting a mid-late in your draft, or a defender, late in your draft. But also Jarman Impey, the running half back at Hawthorn. He does like to run and carry. Yes, they've got Josh Weddle and the likes down there, but Sam Mitchell loves to see the ball in his hands. Their slingshot type of offense helps him with the way that he plays as well, getting the ball forward of centre. And I think there's a lot of upside there in the Jarman Impey pick, especially in the last round. What have you got to lose, really? Because you've got your bench players and the likes. And if it doesn't work out, you've got, you release them to free agency and you use your waiver wires. But if it does work out and you get a 90 to 100-point player each week, it's kind of a godsend trend.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think it's when a player does jump to another club like that, there's obviously a reason. They've targeted him for a reason, and that player hopefully wants to make his mark. So you could be on the money there with those couple.
Yep. So, Train, tell me, out of these players, Kane Farrell, Harry Perryman, and Jarman Impey, rank them 1, 2, and 3, mate, from priority to your least priority.
Oh, look, Farrell's obviously got some upside in that Port Adelaide defence with Houston going for sure. Perryman, once again, Collingwood are a bit of an ageing side, but there's got to be a plan to stick him in. Marks it pretty well, and then Jarman Impey, he's been around forever. So if they are going to use that slingshot, a little bit worried about the Dan Ambrosios and that coming out of that back line as well, whether that's going to take a bit off him or not. But it'll be interesting to see if they try and overuse the ball Hawthorn this year, or last year they sort of, as you said, they tried to transfer it as quick as they could up the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get stuck into our mids, Deadly, you've created a nice little spreadsheet in the Patreon. Do you want to go through what's involved in that for our AFL SuperCoach drafters?
It's a bit outdated now. It probably needs a bit of a revamp. But about a month ago, we created a big draft board, 1 to 250, based on the people you are going to want to pick for SuperCoach Draft this year. It also helps with your classic. There was the discounted players and the rookies that were fantastic options, and you sort of could mix them in wherever you felt with the draft board. As I said, it needs some changing, but you can always go have a look. It's a great just refresher, just to see what new roles people have, where people would rank these sort of guys, how early you could pick a forward compared to a defender, and just that sort of stuff. It's pretty handy.
For sure. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get involved in the Patreon, listen to this hot American guy talk about it.
Want to take your SuperCoach game to the next level? Inside Fantasy Sports are bringing you exclusive content all year round, such as weekly expert Q&As, team, trade, and captaincy advice, statistical deep dives, priority podcast questions, and tons more. So what are you waiting for? Get full access to the experts. Go to patreon.com/Insight Fantasy Sports and subscribe to Insight Unlimited today.
And if you subscribe for less than a cup of coffee a month, $6 a month, you get access to everything that we have in our Patreon. SuperCoach Draft rankings, articles written by Nerds for Life, who's all over everything around the grounds. SuperCoach Hurley, who's finished top 300 last year in the classic format. Dr. SuperCoach, who formerly a writer for Dr. SuperCoach. We've got our own Dr. Insight now. So he's in there giving us articles. He's doing player versus player articles specifically for you guys at home. So if you want to know about two specific players and who you should pick, jump in the Patreon and he'll get to work straight away for you. Deadly, our midfield. So this is probably somewhere where in SuperCoach Draft you can afford to wait a little bit because of how deep midfields are in SuperCoach.
Yep.
What sort of sleepers are we looking at through our midfield this year?
It sort of just depends on your strategy. I think personally I like to always just have one gun midfielder, whether it be, wherever you're picking. And then, you can wait for a guy like my first sleeper, James Peatling, as one of the other midfielders. 139 ADP for a guy who's going to be the inside bull at Adelaide. won't be a sub risk like he was at GWS, won't have the, forward, I can't even speak. He won't get put forward like he was at GWS. He'll be in the inside mids, occasionally on the wing, but more than likely he'll just stay inside. And yeah, he averages 98 when he's not with the vest, averaged 104 without certain midfielders at GWS. He's got the pedigree, and I think it's perfect to take a punt on him, especially in these late rounds.
100%, mate. When you're talking about someone whose ADP, average draft position, is 139, so we're talking about another 12th rounder in 12-team comps, you're looking at someone who is just a bull. And Matthew Nix the other day came out, coach of Adelaide, and said that his priority is to put James Peatling in around the ball, and that's where he's going to stay. So when a senior coach is saying that and being so assertive with what he wants with one specific player, you know that role's going to stick. For me, I don't see him spending much time on the wing. I think it's going to be inside, using his assets, his clean hands, but he's also a bull at a gate inside to be able to get the ball to the outside midfielders and your Dawsons. Saligo's a bit of a mix of an inside-outside, your Rankins on the outside in order to drive the ball forward. So I think that screams value if he's still there in your 11th or 12th round.
Yep.
Train, who you got?
Well, there's two I like, but Tom Powell from North, young pup, got a bit of a berth at the back end of last year. 3 of his 5 games were 100 and plus last year, and that's where he started. And then pre-season, I saw some stats already that the little practice, the intra-club match, he pumped out 116. In the leagues I've seen so far, he's been slipping. No one's even had him on the radar. Like, you can get him very deep in any draft league at the moment. This kid could be anything, and he's obviously got a better midfield there at North this year, and one of the best tap ruckmen to him. So I'd love to see what he can do this year.
Yeah, spot on. I went to watch the North Melbourne game on the weekend. He was easily one of the best. Pushing back into defence, using the ball coming out of defence, and then also on the inside as well, getting the ball out to the likes of Sheasel and co. He looks really good. And you're right, with someone like Cherry as the ruckman, who's one of the more dominant ruckmen, or who has become one of the more dominant ruckmen in the AFL, again, screams value, Tommy Powell. We did a mock draft the other night, deadly, 144 deep, so 12 rounds, 12 teams, and he went undrafted.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he went undrafted, which insane, really, when you think about it. And I sort of overlooked him for Campbell Chesser, but Tom Powell he's sort of got used everywhere last year, and just now it's sort of cemented that he's going to be in the midfield rotation permanently. And he really dominated there in the intra club. He really dominated there last year, and he's getting drafted below guys like Lockie Scholl and Jared Berry. These are guys who are going to spend time outside as the midfield only eligible players. There's no reason why you don't pick Tom Powell over them.
Yeah, spot on. Train, I want to ask you this. I've got a name here, and I want to know why this guy's slipping as much as what he is. That's Stephen Canilio. So believe it or not, his ADP, or average ADP at the moment, is 147th overall. Why would he be so far back?
Well, obviously these boys are part of that GWS lineup initially, and they're getting a bit old now. And he's been in and out and injured, and he does have a lot of upside when he's in the squad and firing for sure. But personally, I just don't trust him in and out of the team, and you can't rely on him every week. Some weeks he's great, and other weeks he just takes the foot off the pedal. So not in my team.
Yeah, the shoulder recos would be the biggest problem. Yep. All those injuries last year sort of stunted him a lot, kept him out for multiple weeks throughout the season. I mean, he had multiple games where he was on track for a decent score, or he was getting tagged for whatever reason, and then the shoulder just had to come off. He still finished with a 79 average on the season, which for Stephen Canilio of the past, it's pretty bad. But the shoulder injuries are the reason, and there's no reason why, if he stays healthy and can avoid the shoulder injuries, it goes back up to around close to 90 and present perfect value, even in your deeper leagues.
So you think of the midfield mix there at GWS, you got Josh Kelly, Finn Callaghan, Tom Green. Canilio. Do you think Canilio starts in there, or do you think he's a rotational piece?
I probably reckon he does. He'd probably be one of the four. They might ship, they might have Callahan or Kelly out on a wing to start and have them three and then sort of rotate them through. But they don't really have many other options as of right now. There's maybe like 5 that could play in the midfield, but, Cogs will be in there as long as he's healthy.
It's probably 100%. A team I want to watch and see pre-season what they decide to do in there, because there's a lot of aging bodies, and even Kelly, he's good when he's playing, but
his pick strings are like bloody paper, aren't they?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. They got to start giving these kids a run. What they're doing at the moment, they're going to have to mix it up. They keep getting close enough, but not quite good enough. So the kids coming through.
And one of the boys hurls here saying Bedford will be in there most weeks towards the tag. So
100%. Yep.
Yeah. There's another outlier as to why he is probably slipping as far as what he is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our forwards, lads. So we've got 3 from our defenders, 3 mids, and now we're going to talk about some forwards. And this first one, Deadly, really surprises me, especially with the amount of ball that he is able to find and the amount of ball that he found on the weekend. He had 31 touches against Essendon, looked pretty good with the ball, had 72 or 81% CBAs. It was an extremely high number. Only really missing Bont and Libba. Massive injury news out of Western Bulldogs that Cody Waitman's gone down and won't be available till the mid-season buys as well. Riley Sanders, he's at 123 his ATP is, which is round 11 value.
Yeah.
This screams value for an accumulator.
Yeah, 100%. I think probably the biggest question is, you probably said it is how does he fare with Bont, Treloar, Libba, all these guys back? Does he get shipped back to the VFL? Does he go back to half forward? I think he has to be in the AFL team. It's just where. I think he has to be a part of the midfield rotation at times. How long? There's just too many question marks, which is probably why he slipped so far. But at 11th round value, if you can pick him as sort of like, just a punt play off your bench to be your forward mid, just a guy you can plug in if he's starting, if the role looks good. I don't see why not, especially in keeper leagues. He'll be a lot higher drafted because of how young he is. But I can't imagine it's that much higher than what he is getting drafted at right now, which it's pretty ridiculous to me how well he played on the weekend. He was the first recipient for every kick in, which means they wanted to get the ball in his hands a lot more than, others. And he just looks better and better each week, each season. And I think there is value.
What do you reckon, Trey? Do you think that's a bit low for Sanders, or do you think that's about right, given the uncertainty around his role at the moment?
No, I think it's a bit low for sure. I think every SuperCoach team will have him in at the start, round 1. If you haven't, you're mad. Go find a mirror and have a good hard look at yourself. But you're talking about Treloar, who's surprised me last year. Credit to him, played all season. He's another one that has a few hamstring twings and just headaches for people. But last year, to his credit, he played all season. But he's already got the niggly one at the start of the year, and we got Libba, who's a lot of concussions last year, and that worries me once again this season. So I think he will be firmly fixed in there. And really, the kid had the vest on how many times last year, and you could just see it. He was fuming. So if they don't give him a run this year,
he'll be off to Tassie.
I think he'll be going somewhere.
A few little followers in the chat too. Train toot from James Fox.
I'll put this to you, Horse.
Yeah.
With Cody Waitman obviously going into surgery today, and all these other injuries and uncertainties going on with the Western Bulldogs forward line, does a guy like Bont sneak forward a lot more and just open up a spot for Riley Sanders to be able to play in that midfield?
I think it does. Yep. You look at the injuries that they've got at the moment. They're running pretty thin at the moment. Bont has shown an ability to be an X factor up forward. So I don't like it, because we know how good Bont is in CBAs and in and around the ground and in and around the ball. But for Western Bulldogs to kick a winning score, he's got to play forward.
Yep.
So,
More
I do see
Bont
Bont playing a little bit more forward, which I don't like.
Don't like it for Bont. I love it for Sanders.
Yeah, absolutely. Somewhat a forgotten man trained at the Sydney Swans, a little pipsqueak who loves to give a few jumper punches and what have you. Probably would remind yourself of when you used to play footy back in the day, just getting around, giving a few behind the play, and that's Tommy Papley, mate. What do you think? ADP at the moment, 128, so middle of the 11th round.
Yeah, cheeky forward man. When he's on, he's good. Tireless worker for the club for sure. Up and down, loves to be involved in it. He just doesn't have those massive scores from what I've seen in the last few years. But if he is slipping through to that far in the draft, you are just looking to sort of plug the holes at the back end. So, Sydney will be an interesting one once again. New coach this year and some changes in that midfield. So does that help him get a bit more of the ball up front?
Just another fan mail question, this time from Lockie Brook, long-time listener, first-time commenter. Cody Waitman out for 3 months. Thoughts, Train?
Yeah, I saw something today. I briefly saw it going in. I've been working all day, but briefly saw he's twanged something going in and needs a knee op. Did I see on the way in? So 3 months.
He's had troubles with it for a while, and they've sort of brushed it to the side for a bit, and it just sort of. It can't brush to the side anymore. He's got to go have that fix up.
Rumor has it that he did the knee while ducking a tackle. So hopefully he comes back better than ever. So Tommy Papley, we are saying yes, he is a sleeper. Where would you expect him to go, Train?
Oh, look, he'd definitely be deep. Probably not one on my list, but. If you're in a 16-team league or something like that, you definitely it'd be silly to not plug him in there and fill one of your bench spots for sure.
Deadly, this next one I want to talk to you about is someone who, on average, is going at 168. So for those of you listening at home at the moment and all audio platforms, 168 doesn't sound great. But for someone who could potentially finish top 3 in the Coleman this year, Riley Thilthorpe from Adelaide. That's massive unders.
He is a jet. He's incredible. He just needs to keep his body right. Like, he's getting drafted around guys who averaged 65 last year.
Yep.
And he averaged 76 in his 9 games or whatever already. And that was second season. This Adelaide side's gotten better. They've got people to actually distribute the ball to him. Someone who finished even top 5 in the Coleman last year, and Jake Waterman, just from kicking goals, he averaged 83, and he's getting drafted around 100, which is already 70 points, 70 positions of value just in Riley Thilthorpe in there. Which, it's a bit of a flyer. It's one of the ones you sort of don't want to reach on him, but if he's there in your back end of the rounds, why not?
Yeah, spot on. Are you a fan, Train, or is this another one that you're not really going to worry about?
Oh, look, you got obviously the Texan. He just keeps hanging around, but he does take the number 1 defender, which is a good thing. So it could help him.
I'm sorry, I've got to show this. Who is the Bombers bloke wearing the kid's hat?
Where are all the Bombers fans? That's Plugger. I told you
that's another SPL legend.
There's a few rabbits on the show tonight. We should build the Great Wall of China and keep them out.
The real question is, who is the horse hoping to get at pick 15 in SPL? Sunday afternoon, you'll see at Train's place, a few beers. Should be a good day. Might do some live coverage from there as well for the people at home. We'll see how we go.
Oh, look out.
Why not? Ladies and gentlemen, this show is brought to you by Ryan from Astute Newstead. If you need any assistance with home loans, remortgaging, refinancing, or anything financial, give Ryan a buzz. Just send him a message. His link is in the description below. Click on that and use the promo code INSIGHT to get yourself an obligation-free quote. But not just that, he will do everything for you free of charge if you drop the word INSIGHT. Great bloke, shit moustache. Let's move on.
Go Lockie Whitfield.
Lockie Whitfield's personal sponsor, that's right. So in our rucks, now we're still talking 12-team leagues. We had a discussion off air about it. tends to look like at the moment that rucks are going early train. At the moment, there is one ruckman that's slipping through to the 4th round, and that's Lloyd Meek. His average draft position is 51. What do you think?
Look, I think he was sneaky at the back end of last year, or he made a bit of a name for himself last year. So I'd like to see another season, but these ruckmen, they don't get any smaller as the game goes on. So if they can continue to build their tanks and put a few kilos on in pre-season, then rucks should be, even your flex position. If your leagues are running a flex, a double ruckman might be a good little flex.
Do you think that he can average 100 this season?
Don't see why not. I don't see why not.
Tedley?
Oh, easy. I'm tipping him for 100 at least.
Yep. If you're looking at a ruckman that can average you 105 to 110, who's on average going in the 4th round, that's significant value.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next ruckman, Deadly, who you got for us?
Sort of just like rucks are hard, especially in draft, because there's only really like 10 or 11 actual stars for rucks that will score 90, 95 each week plus. So they all fall pretty early. But Oscar McInerney going in about the 7th or 8th round, it seems a bit too low. Especially for a guy who averaged 96 last year, and really, if it wasn't for 2 pretty bad games, I think one was injury affected as well, he would have cracked 100 very easily. I think it was 103 average without the 2 games. I think he had an 18 against Essendon or something. Him going below, I don't see Luke Jackson as being a good pick, especially at his current ADP at 44, which, no, don't like that. He's getting drafted as the 10th ruck, and I think he's probably got a top 7 upside at least. So yeah, there's a bit of a sneaky opportunity with Omac.
Do you think it's because of the injury concerns and that he's coming back from the shoulder surgery?
Potentially, yes, but I think it's just sort of based off the hype that's around a lot of these rucks this year. Like Sean Darcy had a lot of hype building into the season. Tom DeConing's got massive hype around him. There's people like that, and he's sort of one that just flies under the radar. He just does a job each week, and he's always going to have people to tap it to in the midfield. I can't see why he wouldn't score decent enough every week to, if you randomly run a 2 ruck structure in your 12 team leagues, picking a guy like Omac as your second ruck, beautiful. Even as a flex, perfect. I like it
for sure. Train, would Omac be someone that you're looking at?
Haven't really followed him in my past years. I tend to sort of try and lock and load the ruckman and try not to worry about him. But the last few years have caused massive headaches for me, unfortunately. But that's usually my plan: try and get a solid ruckman early, and then put the queue in the rack in that space. So we found in the last couple of drafts I've done, obviously Zeri and Gorm went real early, and then a bit of panic happened at the back end in 10 and 11th, 12th pick. Maybe one more went, and then that started a bit of an avalanche in round 2.
It's always how it goes.
Of ruckman. So if you're not getting a ruckman early, you're going to be left holding the baby at the end, I think. So
absolutely.
I think so. Deadly, while we move on to 16, 18 team leagues, sleepers, are you able to just do a quick look on the SuperCoach app, mate, and find Sean Darcy's ADP at the moment, and then alongside that, Liam Reddy's? What is it, sorry?
77.5 for Sean Darcy, and Liam Reddy is going at 227.3 at the minute.
So 227 for potentially a ruck that's going to ruck the first 4 rounds. I understand that it's a risk because Darcy's going to come straight back in, but there's some value there too.
Yeah, I agree. I think because I reckon with this Darcy injury, you could be able to get him a lot later than what his ADP actually is right now. I reckon he probably will fall. And honestly, if you're happy to just... The good strategy with draft is you can start out pretty bad, and as long as you make your way back and make it to finals, you can win from anywhere as long as you're in finals. I can see a world where you can pick Liam Reedy with your very last pick in probably a 16-team league, he can just sit there, score 60s maybe if you're lucky for the first 4 rounds. You get Sean Darcy back. Bob's your uncle. You're living life, and you've got your rest of the team would be stacked, and you had Sean Darcy probably in like the 8th round.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah,
Definitely. That's why we need to keep our eyes open, stay aware of what's going on in your draft, ladies and gentlemen, because there are sleepers that will fall, that will present real value at the back end of this year. We're going to move into 16, 18 teams now. So these are people that we're looking at that almost the very back end of the draft, but players who have averaged decent SuperCoach scores in the past that definitely aren't your worst SuperCoach players that do belong on rosters. And we're going to start with our defense train. So Johnny Noble, the man who's just gone up to the Gold Coast, average draft position of 157, the ex-Collingwood running half back. Any interest there?
Personally, not a big fan, but did hear something the other day that, once again, that drafted him for a reason at his age and his position, and they're going to look to use him a fair bit, running it out of that defence. So I'd like to see it before I put him in my team, but if it is true and that's what he's up there to do, then he could be a nice sleeper.
Yep, for sure. Deadly.
Yep.
There's a bloke the other day for the Western Bulldogs that he had 27 touches and was it 100 SuperCoach points in that rainy, windy day. I speak of none other than the SuperCoach Whisperer's favourite AFL player, the Freezer. Current ADP of 198.
Yep. This is purely based off what he can do without Bailey Dale.
Mm-hmm.
There is a one big question mark is what he can do with Bailey Dale, which he scored well last year with him, and that was one of his first seasons back there. Played a lot of VFL still. It sort of looked like he's just warmed into the role perfectly in the preseason, and it's the second distributor is his role to keep. As long as he gets the occasional kick out, which it's sort of a bit of worry because Bailey Dale takes a lot of them. Lockie Bramble takes most of the other ones. He will score decent enough, but in 16-team leagues, that's is literally
that's last round. Yep.
Yeah. So there is a world where you can take a punt, stash him away. If you need to play him, you can safely. And if if Bailey Dale goes down at all, there's upside supreme. Or
if Bailey Dale gets tagged.
Yeah, even that, yeah. And he's a big tag risk this year, especially with the way that the Bulldogs midfield's going. There's not many people to tag besides maybe Ed Richards at this rate, and Bailey Dale is probably second option.
Yeah, for sure. And someone who's not being drafted at all at the moment, average draft position of 214, and that's Tom Dowdy from the Brisbane Lions. So he's gone across from Adelaide into the Brisbane Lions backline. For me, I hope he starts. Really good player, really good as the third tall, coming across the packs, taking those intercept marks, being the third tall over the back. Averaged, I believe it was 2020, 2021, he averaged mid-80s. Yeah, so that's someone who's currently going undrafted. If you can pick up someone who's going to get you mid-80s if he goes back to his best form, and we know what Brisbane are like bringing people back who have had injury concerns, there's value there as well. Someone to target on your waivers if you don't want to go early on Tom Dowdy with a draft pick in your actual draft. Now, with our mids, we've got 3 here who I think scream value. And I know I've said that before, but when you're talking about these players who are getting drafted after 152, which means 13, 14, 15th rounds, who all have prominent roles in their teams, Train, we'll start with you. Dylan Shield is currently going at 162 average draft position. After his performance on the weekend, taking kickouts, running off halfback, even in the wet, in the windy conditions down there at Whitten Oval, he looked good with the ball.
Yeah, well, as an Essendon man, he'd want to be good. I reckon he's in his last season to do something and prove something to the Essendon fans. I don't know. There's a lot of obviously talk of that back line and that speed, and even Saad back there, the young guy we've drafted mid-season last year, whether he gets a run. I reckon he's sitting right in behind Shields. I reckon if Shields fails, he'll be in to have a run. But he is good with the football when he gets it. So fingers crossed he can do some damage. But I feel like he's going to play a bit of a Caleb Daniel role across that half-back line. And yeah, I guess us Essendon supporters will have to wait and see. But word out of the Bombers camp is that's what he's doing. So we'll see.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Deadly? You're an Essendon man as well.
Yeah, it's value. There is value there. I think it's a perfect move to put him behind the ball. It's sort of what he needs to, get a bit of confidence back, touch the ball a lot more, just stay away from injuries and all this sort of stuff. And the biggest thing that I wanted to see was taking kickouts, and he did for the whole second half in that intra-club, which perfect for me.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reason why he can't, average mid-90s in this role at least, as long as he's taking kickouts, using the ball well, which, his biggest problem's always been turning the ball over. But even if he kicks it far enough, it won't be so detrimental. And his running carries always pretty good. Straight line running is what we need from him. And yeah, there is value here at, 162 ADP. You can draft him over a guy like an Ed Langdon or a Justin McInerney. Some of these, wingers, and, he might even land DPP pretty early on and, swing him back into your defense.
Someone else who's going to go early with the DPP, I believe, and that's Ollie Hollins from the Carlton Footy Club. So his average draft position at the moment is 171. So he's going very, very late. He's got a prime role there at Carlton at the moment. They're going to use him off half-back, use him as a distributor, use him for his run and carry. Big ifs around his ball use, though. We saw the notes from the intra-club they had the other day where he turned the ball over twice in the space of 2 minutes. That resulted in 2 goals when he was trying to switch the play. So massive, massive risk with picking someone like Ollie Hollins. But if it comes off in that role, there could be value. For me, I'm probably fading, though.
Yeah, I'll probably lean the same. I'll probably... it depends. If it's deep leagues and he's 15th round, Ollie Hollins is still there. Why not? It's the punt you take sort of towards those back end that can, win you your season quite comfortably. If he could find a way to use the ball well enough, we already know he's got the run and carry. His running carry is perfect. It's just his efficiency with the ball isn't the greatest. As long as he can find a bit of that alongside Adam Sard, he could really shine.
Yep. Deadly, can you find Darcy Jones's ADP for us? Thank you.
Got you.
And while we're doing that, one for you, Train. What's Bailey Smith's SuperCoach relevance this year?
Well, it's an interesting one, really. He's another person that needs to prove himself. Another person that needs to stand up and I guess put his hand up and says I'm here and take the league by storm. A lot of, I guess he's always rolled with plenty of skills, but we really haven't seen him blow games.
No, we haven't
consistently apart, which is I think what everyone wants to see.
Yeah, and you're probably going to hurt me for bringing this up, but I'm going to read it out anyway. Jai Cully could be an interesting one if he gets picked up. Watch this space. Train, I believe he is going to get picked up because Shane McAdam at the Melbourne Footy Club has done his Achilles and he's out for the year, which means Melbourne have 4 days to sign an SSP player before cutoff, and he is leading that race by a long way at Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just those for the backstory. We've got a keeper league, and I had him sold the farm to get him, and obviously he got delisted last year, so the boys gave me absolute heaps, and he was one of my favourites too. And I wanted to even keep him on as a bit of a mascot for the team, but the app deleted him for me. I didn't even get to kick him out. So
does that mean you get to get him back if he gets picked up?
That's the question. That's the question. We're going to have a committee meeting over it, I think.
Oh, I don't think you ever had a committee meeting. You'd be buying his jumper and he's straight back in.
I think you're good.
Yeah.
I don't think people are going to be rushing for him anyway.
It'll be interesting to see.
He's not a horrible footy player. It's just, his injury run was pretty shit house.
Yeah. one more mid before we move on, Deadly. Jace Burgoyne from the Port Adelaide Footy Club, average draft position 152. So he's going in the third round also. There were times last year where he was scoring back-to-back hundreds.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a guy who, he won't score less than 70 every week. Like this is a guy you pick if you just need a safe scoring. You've taken a lot of punts earlier on, and you just need someone who can score decent enough to fill a hole. And there is, we thought he could have a chance at getting the halfback spot that then Houston left. It's probably looking like he just sits out on the wing now. But there is a chance still that he'll play, some halfback during games when, another wing comes on, whether it be a Christian Moraes or a Travis Boak or someone like that. And he just, goes back there for a little while before coming off. I think, there is value present. He averaged 82 odd last year. And, he's getting drafted around 75 average again. There's no reason for him to, be dropping off draft boards like this at the price. Well, at the average.
Yeah, 100%.
A lot of good players in that team.
Yeah, there is. Let's move on to our forwards. So we've picked out another three here who we think are absolute value. After a slow start last season, Nick Watson came on scoring quite well at the back end of last year. He's still going at average of 179 in draft leagues. How do you see his consistency? And do you think he's worth going higher than that or taking a punt on him on, say, the 12th round even? Because here he's going in the 16th round.
Yeah, look, I think he took everybody by surprise last year with the way he finished the back end of that season. I think there'll be a lot more people taking notice of him this year and a lot more defenders doing their homework on him. Yep. So I think he might have a tougher assignment this year round. Yep. A couple that I sort of flagged, potentially your Shai Bolton or your Nick Larkey had a bit of potential. Maybe Shai Bolton's not drifting that deep, but a guy that averaged 96.7 in 2023 and then only 77 last year. Now, we know he's got class and he has changed clubs and he's with a much better team that will give him the football this year. I reckon he could go crazy.
For sure. How'd you go with the Darcy Jones ADP, Deadly?
235.2 ADP, which undrafted most leagues.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, pretty surprising actually. I thought he was, a lot higher than that. There's a few guys around this sort of mark that are, almost falling into undrafted territory that could do you a service at times this year. Reef McGuinness from the Collingwood Football Club probably will end up in a spot down back, getting drafted at 220. Bailey Humphrey, who they want to get him more involved. They really... Gold Coast will want to get him more involved. Could see some CBAs this year, getting drafted at 225. Keeper league, keep an eye out for that, where he lands. Darcy Jones, I think I'm right in saying he was the highest averaging half-forward rookie last year. And, 235 is pretty well overs.
I can't believe how popular you are today, Train. There's a lot of people in the chat wanting your services.
Well, look, if it ups your ratings, I'm happy to come on board, mate.
And look, let's give a shout out to the over 300 people that are watching right now on X, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We appreciate your support. Give us a thumbs up, please. Get us out there into the SuperCoach community. We would appreciate that. You brought up Nick Larkey before, Train.
Yeah.
His ADP is 219. He's nearly going undrafted.
Big fan of him a couple of years back. Finished off the 2023 season, round 23 with 113 and round 24 with 173. I thought he was going to pop in 2024, so I picked him up in draft, and unfortunately he failed. He failed in a big way, but North have got a much better squad this year, much better midfield this year, and he's obviously got the big Jack Darling standing next to him, taking another key defender, or even not, if they need a bit of a rest off Larkey, though, he'll be getting the number one. So I think watch this space. He could be a sleeper for sure. He could be Coleman medal sort of setup.
100%.
Some more love for you, Trent. Johnny's in the chat saying toot toot.
Get around it, Johnny.
He's so modest too.
Yeah,
What else you got for us, Deadly?
We put Lucky on here just to please Skitty. I mean,
good. Jack Silvani. Talk to me about Jack Silvani. He's gone to the third defender at Carlton at the moment and looking likely to be that third tall down there. I'm not sure. It's late, so you can afford to take a flyer at a draft position of 196, but classic, it's a no for me.
Yeah, no.
I don't think there's enough there. He does have some spike scores where he goes over 100, but he also goes missing too at times with regular scores under 40. So what are you thinking, mate? Is it worth the risk this late in the draft?
Look, it's just it's a new position for him, completely different to him. And, there's been clips and photos getting around about him taking intercept marks. It looks like he's firming into the position really well. Classic, absolutely no chance, not even batting an eye. But at 280p, if you're in like a seriously deep league, like I'm talking 20 league, 20-team league, you can afford to pick a guy like this. He will have forward defender eligibility at some point pretty early on, which is pretty gold. And, he should score decent enough to be worth some decent value, I reckon.
I think so. We're going to finish off with some rucks here that are going really, really late / not getting drafted at all. We've already touched on Liam Reddy, but Toby Conway from Geelong. Now, we know he's got some back issues and he's out for a little while now. But Train, he's ADP at the moment. He's going undrafted. He's going at number 224 on average at the moment. So people are obviously stashing him or using him in the loop way if you're trying to get a captain score, a vice captain score on field. What are you thinking about Toby Conway? Is it worth holding on to him if he's injured?
No, I'd probably move on. It'll be interesting to see whether Sam DeConning takes that ruck. He dabbled in it a bit last year, and look, I'd love to see him continue to explore that as his brothers showing what you can do in that space. And Geelong have sort of, they're probably crying out for someone in that space the last few years. They've been flicking a few guys through there, and I'd like to see him settle down with somebody. But Toby's probably a man that they want to settle down with. So in the interim, I think they'll keep mucking around with these guys coming over the top.
Yeah. Okay.
Deadly.
Yeah. 224 ADP. As long as he's healthy, he averages up. Like that's good enough for at least, the top 18 rucks. At least he's getting drafted below guys like Todd Goldstein, who in full season averaged 70. He's getting drafted below Reece Stanley, who's like basically guaranteed
certified spud. Yep,
he's guaranteed to play in the BFL. Getting drafted below both Matt Flynn and Bailey Williams.
Matt Flynn was terrible today.
Matt Flynn was terrible. Bailey Williams, in a full season at Ruck last year, only averaged 70. As long as Toby Conway's healthy, he's better than all these guys. You can draft him higher. Mm-hmm. And the fact he's slipping is so weird to me because he is the long-term answer for Geelong at the Ruck spot. They want to keep SDK back in defence. That's surely what they want to do. I'd be shocked if they want to make him the Ruck going forward because Toby Conway has been the guy for them coming through the ranks.
Yep.
And
probably a bit like me. Sorry, Deadly. I didn't really see this guy on the radar because, Geelong just sort of go about their business. They're not flashy. They don't overuse the footy. The guys aren't, the big names tend to score the big points and you don't hear about the rest of them. So, Toby's probably not on my radar and you guys are probably making a good case to me to even try and slip him in now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's literally like it's if you wait really late on Ruck and you sort of need to just get a bit desperate in your 20-team leagues, there's not going to be enough Rucks for there's only 18 solidified Rucks that are actually going to score good for every team. Toby Conway's a guy. If you completely wait, then sure. As long as you have someone to cover for the first couple rounds, it's not bad in my eyes.
Webby's gone with the. I feel like Deadly with the double mic. He's coming through clearer. Speak up, toot toot.
This one doesn't work. It's turned off.
The viewers at home are picking up on what we're throwing here. If we had to pick one sleeper out of the players that we've chosen, Train, who is the one that we've spoken about tonight that you think, yep, there is absolute value there, and the people at home who are listening to this, the people who are driving to work tomorrow morning, the people who are driving home from work tomorrow night when they're listening to this podcast, they think, yep, I need to get this person?
Well, I'll probably go back to the North Melbourne young midfielder, Tom Powell. Some have got him on the radar and others don't. So I'm seeing a bit of a mixture of where he's being drafted. But if I've taken Deadly's, probably go back to maybe Trent Rivers. As I said, I like him. He's got the dual position player. He's probably not too much of a sleeper. He'll go in that rounds. Maybe 6 and 7, but I think he's got a lot of upside in the midfield for Melbourne this year.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on the flex, Train?
Well, I've been at the gym this morning, tell Beta, so
no.
just might ask Beta what he thinks about it.
Oh, jeez. Beta, that's terrible. He's got to be fined for that. Surely. Deadly, if you had to pick out one that we've spoken about tonight, who are you picking and why?
Yeah, it would have been Tom Powell. There's just so much upside in him, especially in that, solidified spot in the North Melbourne midfield. 142 draft position. God, I can't even speak. He should be higher than that. He's better than that. Mm-hmm. But if I was to pick another one, Nick Larkey at 219 in deep leagues flyer. There's, so much upside there, especially if North kick on a bit and he kicks on a bit. He can be dominant, especially the way he comes back around the ground to help out when needed. Yeah, there is on offer for him.
And he's got help this year.
Yeah. What's that, sorry?
And he's got help this year in Jack Darling, so two big timbers down there.
Yep. For me, I think Harry Perryman at 136, I think he could easily be top 100 this year. If he gets that midfield time at Collingwood that I believe that he'll get, they've got the aging side bottom, the aging Pendlebury. To go, he's playing a lot more forward. I think it's going to be Dacos. I think it's going to be Perryman on the inside there. Ed Allen even. I think there's going to be a lot of movement there that we haven't previously seen from the Collingwood Footy Club. Dan Houston might even go through there as well. So Perryman, I think if he gets his 50% CBAs, he'll be easily inside the top 100. James Peatling at 139. There's top 100 value there, 100% every day of the week as well. Riley Sanders. Let's watch his next practice match. Depending on when you have to draft 123, that's too late. Top 100, I'd probably take a punt in like at the 8th or 9th round on someone like Riley Sanders because A, he's an accumulator. He gets a lot of the ball. But B, you brought it up, Train. If they don't play him this year, Tassie are in the comp in a couple of years. He might just delay talks and then be the marquee player down at Tassie. He's a Tassie boy, loves it down there. Him and Colby McKercher. Colby McKercher won't go, but I reckon Riley might if he doesn't get a good crack this year. Also want to bring up Lloyd Meek. I think he could be a top 5 ruck this year. He came on in leaps and bounds last year. He's good around the ground. His follow-up work's really good. He's not quite at Cherry's level, but I think you could easily expect between 105 and 110 average out of Lloyd Meek this year, Deadly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just see the way he dominated all the Geelong rucks today in the intra-club. He had every hit out, everyone to advantage. He looked dominant. He was pushing up around the ground, getting the ball. It looked like the Lloyd Meek of the prime last year when he first started. It was really impressive. And as long as he keeps it up, we've spoken about it for Classic as well, but that early draw after the bye is
juicy.
Hot.
Real hot.
It's the easiest draw I think I've ever seen for a ruck to have. So 50 ADP, I'd probably take a fly around that spot.
Yep, for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do us for tonight. That is our sleeper podcast that we talk about all things sleeper related in your AFL SuperCoach drafting. Train, before we go, one, thank you for making the time to come on the Insight Fantasy Sports podcast. We appreciate your time. We know you're a busy man. We know you're a wanted man. And because of coming on the show, you're going to get a prize pack delivered to you thanks to the guys at the Standard Squeeze.
Thanks, Horse. Appreciate it. A lot of fun. Enjoy the invite.
Now, as part of SPL, we did give the boys a bit of a shout out. The SPL is going to form part of this year's SuperCoach Draft podcast inside the Insight channel. Train, live on air right now. I want you to pick one of the boys from SPL who are going to join us on our next episode.
Now, well, you'd have to get Baker's pups, Sammy Baker on board. He's mouth of the South and pretty much thinks he knows everything about football. So get him on. He'll be good value.
Bakes, you heard it here first, mate. You're on. Deadly, thanks for joining me, mate. Where can the people at home find you?
On here, best spot.
On here.
On here. Deadly B on Twitter. But probably the best way you can catch all my content. Join the Patreon, you'll see all my sort of stuff. Pretty active in the Discord as well. Just get amongst it. Just as long as you're anywhere amongst Insight, you'll find me.
Deadly, before we do go, talk about your charts that you've been doing and the work that you've done behind the scenes on that and how it's available in Patreon.
Yeah, so we've done a few sort of different things in the Patreon so far, and we've got a lot more coming before the start of the season. We've released, as we said before, the draft board. We've released a taggers spreadsheet, which had all the taggers stats from last year, how well people did against the tag, who's at risk of getting tagged this year, that sort of thing. We've done full deep dives into positions.
Positional analysis, yep.
Yep, we've done full, how well a team goes against the top 20 defenders, who averages the best, what's the best matchup for someone. And, this is how we found out guys like Lloyd Meek have this juicy run because, you go looking into stats from last year and years prior and, you dive into all those deep sort of stuff and it'll all be there in one space in the Patreon.
That's right. And not even SuperCoach Draft related. It is also Classic related. So for less than a cup of coffee per month, if you want access to all this data, jump inside the Patreon. The link will be in the description below. Deadly's on the far right. Train sandwich between the middle of us. On the horse. We're going to catch you again tomorrow night where you're going to see some positional analysis. We'll catch you then.
Flagged ons.
Flagged ons.